Harry Potter captivated millions of hearts with its magical world full of emotion, where friendship, bravery, and unforgettable characters left a lasting mark in memory. But behind the spotlight of Hogwarts, many talented actors have left us due to heartbreaking tragedies and sudden illnesses. Let's pay tribute to the legendary stars who made the wizarding dream eternal for fans around the world. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Alan Rickman as Severus Snape. Alan Sidney Patrick Rickman was born on February 21, 1946, in Acton, London. When he was 55 years old, he took on the role of Severus Snape in Harry Potter, a character who at first seemed cold and antagonistic, but ultimately turned out to have a broken heart and undying love. Rickman stayed with the role for 10 years, across all 8 films, transforming Snape from a strict professor into a tragic symbol of sacrifice and loyalty. But to fully embody that character, Rickman had to overcome his own deeply hidden losses and pain. When he was just 8 years old, he lost his father to cancer. His mother raised 4 children alone in poverty, moving the family from Acton to a public housing estate near Wormwood Scrubs prison. That childhood full of silent sacrifices shaped the brooding gaze and warm, resonant voice that audiences never forgot. Throughout his final years, he never publicly revealed his illness. In 2005, Rickman quietly began treatment for prostate cancer. In 2015, after a minor stroke, he discovered he had terminal pancreatic cancer. Rather than give in, he continued to work, completing performances in Eye in the Sky and Alice Through the Looking Glass. On January 14, 2016, Alan Rickman passed away in London, just 1 month before his 70th birthday. His ashes were entrusted to his secret wife, Rima Horton, whom he had loved since he was 19 and only publicly married in 2012. A love that lasted over half a century, steadfast and sincere. At the time of his passing, Rickman's net worth was estimated at around $16 million, a modest figure compared to many stars of his era. Maggie Smith as Minerva McGonagall. Dame Maggie Smith was born on December 28, 1934, in Ilford, Essex, and is one of the greatest legends of British stage and screen. When she was 67 years old, she was cast as Professor Minerva McGonagall in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, 2001. With her tightly tied hair, piercing eyes, and commanding voice that needed no microphone, McGonagall was deputy headmistress of Hogwarts, head of Gryffindor House, and Transfiguration teacher. But beneath that stern and disciplined exterior was a compassionate and kind soul. Behind McGonagall's sharp gaze was a deeply artistic personal life, marked by tragedy, but also resilience. When she was just 16 years old, Maggie Smith dropped out of school to pursue theater. With no experience, she was once slapped unconscious by Laurence Olivier, Britain's stage legend, during a 1964 performance of Othello. Instead of giving up, Smith stood on stage alongside Olivier again. That grit and intelligence took her from a young actress to one of the living treasures of British theater, standing shoulder to shoulder with Judi Dench and Helen Mirren. In 1988, she was diagnosed with Graves's disease and underwent radiation and eye surgery. In 2007, she battled breast cancer but overcame it with strength, continuing to act. When her second husband, playwright Beverly Cross, died in 1998, she lived quietly alone. In an interview, when asked if she was lonely, she gave a sad smile. It seems rather meaningless to live alone with no one to share with. On September 27, 2024, she passed away at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital at the age of 89. Her family confirmed that she passed peacefully, surrounded by loved ones. Shortly after the news of her death, theaters across West End and Broadway dimmed their lights in tribute. Her net worth at the time was estimated at around $20 million. Robbie Coltrane as Rubeus Hagrid. Robbie Coltrane, born Anthony Robert Macmillan, was born on March 30th, 1950 in Scotland. He began the most famous role of his life, Rubeus Hagrid, Keeper of Keys and Grounds at Hogwarts, in 2001, when he was 51 years old. With his wild beard, kind eyes, and massive frame, Hagrid became a childhood icon for millions of viewers around the globe. Behind that warm image was a life full of sorrow and long-lasting darkness. Robbie publicly admitted that he had struggled with severe alcoholism for years. As his fame grew, he turned to alcohol to escape the pressure, and it quickly became a chain that bound him. The drinking led to the collapse of relationships, including his marriage to Rona Gemmell, the wife he had once deeply loved. They married in 1999 and separated after just 4 years. Though they remained in contact for the sake of their children, he never married again. Coltrane's body also began to fail him. Severe obesity, combined with type 2 diabetes, sent his health into sharp decline. But the most cruel of all was chronic osteoarthritis, a condition so painful it left him in a wheelchair from 2019. He once described the pain as constant every day, not a single minute spared. A man who once disassembled engines in 20 minutes now needed help with every step. On October 14, 2022, Robbie Coltrane passed away at Forth Valley Royal Hospital in Scotland at the age of 72. His death certificate listed the cause as multiple organ failure due to sepsis, pneumonia, and heart block, results of years of illness and declining health. At the time of his passing, Coltrane's net worth was estimated at around $4 million, a humble sum compared to his impact. Michael Gambon as Albus Dumbledore. Michael Gambon was born on October 19, 1940, in Dublin, Ireland. He succeeded the iconic role of Albus Dumbledore in the Harry Potter series starting from the 3rd film, The Prisoner of Azkaban, after Richard Harris passed away. When he took the role, he was 63 years old, bringing to the screen a version of Dumbledore that was both warm and sharp, earning the admiration of millions of fans around the world. Gambon was once one of Britain's leading stage actors, personally selected by Laurence Olivier to join the National Theatre. He performed hundreds of roles, from Shakespeare to TV dramas like The Singing Detective, the series that made him known across Europe. With his work ethic, his net worth at the time of his death was estimated at around $20 million. But despite that wealth, Gambon's final years were far from the spotlight. In 2015, he announced his retirement from theater because he could no longer remember lines. He married Anne Miller in 1962 and had one son. However, he also maintained a decades-long parallel relationship with another woman, Philippa Hart, who was 25 years younger than him and gave birth to 2 of his children. The media once called him the quiet gentleman of private storms. His health significantly declined after he turned 80. He was hospitalized multiple times for pneumonia and other age-related complications. On September 27, 2023, Sir Michael Gambon passed away at a hospital in Essex, England, following a severe bout of pneumonia. He died at age 82, surrounded by loved ones. Richard Harris as Albus Dumbledore. Richard Street. John Harris was born on October 1, 1930, in Ireland. He was the first to portray Professor Albus Dumbledore in the first 2 Harry Potter films. When filming began in 2001, he was 71 years old, bringing to Dumbledore a majestic, calm, almost sacred presence. But what the audience didn't know was that at that very time, he had already begun his final battle with illness. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, Richard Harris was one of Britain's most rebellious and charming screen icons, handsome, talented, but a heavy drinker. He was banned from several London bars for causing trouble, once drank to unconsciousness on a film set, and was blacklisted by many major directors. Harris once said, "I'm not addicted to alcohol. I'm addicted to surviving it." His career spanned dozens of classic films like This Sporting Life, Camelot, and The Field, a role that earned him an Oscar nomination. His net worth was estimated at around $20 million, but much of it was spent on alcohol, women, and lavish parties. He once bought an entire hotel in the Bahamas just to drink in peace. He married actress Elizabeth Reese Williams in 1957, and they had 3 sons, including Jared Harris, now known for his role in Chernobyl. However, their marriage collapsed due to his debauched lifestyle and constant absence. He was rarely home during filming or partying. In 2002, right after finishing the second Harry Potter film, Harris was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. The disease progressed rapidly. Just weeks after being hospitalized for pneumonia, he passed away on October 25, 2002, when he was 72 years old, leaving the role of Dumbledore to be continued by Michael Gambon. His death shocked the Harry Potter cast and broke the hearts of fans around the world, who loved his classic and dignified take on the beloved headmaster, Richard Griffiths, as Vernon Dursley. Richard Thomas Griffiths was born on July 31, 1947, in North Yorkshire, England. He became known for his portrayal of Uncle Vernon Dursley, the grumpy, wizard-hating, sharp-tongued man, in the Harry Potter series. When he began filming the first movie in 2001, he was 54 years old. His sarcastic humor and large frame made him one of the most beloved unpleasant characters of the franchise. But behind a successful acting career and his ever-present smile was a body and childhood filled with challenges. Richard Griffiths suffered from pituitary gland failure at age 8 and underwent radiation therapy, which permanently slowed his metabolism. As a result, he struggled with obesity his entire life. Though he became a celebrated stage and screen actor, he was often typecast in heavy-set comedic roles. Richard met the love of his life, Heather Gibson, in 1973 and married her in 1980. They had no children, but lived happily together. Their relationship became the emotional anchor that supported his long career. With his role as Hector in The History Boys, he won the Tony, Olivier, Drama Desk, and Outer Critics Circle Awards, making him one of the most honored stage actors of his time. He also appeared in blockbusters like Chariots of Fire, Gandhi, Sleepy Hollow, Hugo, and Pirates of the Caribbean. His net worth was estimated at around $5 million, mostly from long-running stage and film projects. But tragedy struck in the end. On March 28, 2013, he passed away at age 65 at University Hospital Coventry due to complications after heart surgery. His sudden death shocked many of his colleagues, including Daniel Radcliffe, who mourned his passing, Helen McCroy as Narcissa Malfoy. Helen Elizabeth McCroy was born on August 17, 1968, in London. She entered the Harry Potter universe in 2009 when she was 40 years old, playing Narcissa Malfoy, a noblewoman and mother torn by love and loyalty who lies to Lord Voldemort to save her son. With her haunting gaze and sharp, composed performance, McCroy immortalized the image of a mother who would do anything for her family. Helen was born into an intellectual family. Her father was a diplomat and her mother a physiotherapist. She showed strength early on, living alone in Italy for a year before enrolling at the Drama Centre London. Her talent quickly exploded across stage and screen. She played Lady Macbeth, Medea, and Cherie Blair in The Queen. Most notably, her role as Polly Gray in Peaky Blinders made her a feminist icon, cold, strategic, and unforgettable. McCroy was not only a brilliant actress, she was also a devoted wife and mother. Married to actor Damian Lewis in 2007, they had 2 children. Family was always her greatest priority, in film and in real life. But in her final years, McCroy's strength began to fade. In 2021, just as Peaky Blinders was preparing to film its final season, she suddenly withdrew. On April 16, 2021, The world was shocked to learn that Helen McCroy had passed away at age 52 from breast cancer at her home. Her husband, Damian Lewis, shared, "She didn't want her illness to define her. She wanted to be remembered for her work and her compassion." Throughout her treatment, McCroy remained active in charity, donating over £1 million to the NHS during the COVID-19 pandemic, part of her $25 million net worth. Her final appearances were through archived scenes in Peaky Blinders Season 6 and the animated film Charlotte, released after her death. Vern Troyer as Griphook. Vern Troyer was born on January 1, 1969, in Sturgis, Michigan. Standing at only 81 centimeters tall, he still made the whole world look up. In 2001, when he was 32 years old, he appeared as Griphook, the goblin who holds the keys to Gringotts Bank, in the first Harry Potter film. His brief screen time left a lasting impression thanks to his intelligent, quick-witted expression that always seemed tinged with sadness, a reflection of a real life full of turbulence. Vern was born with achondroplasia dwarfism, and throughout his childhood, he was never pampered. Raised in a German Amish family, he was never treated like someone special. He had to feed cattle, chop wood, and do all the chores like his siblings. That strict upbringing built the inner strength that shaped him. His career didn't begin with fame, but with quiet stunt roles like doubling as the Baby Bink in Baby's Day Out. It wasn't until 1999, when he played Mini-Me in Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me, that he exploded into global stardom. That role turned Vern into a worldwide phenomenon, but he was hospitalized multiple times for alcohol addiction, depression, and untreated mental health issues. In early April 2018, he was rushed to the hospital after a mental health crisis at home, but this time he didn't recover. On April 21, 2018, Vern Troyer passed away at a hospital in Los Angeles at the age of 49. His cause of death was ruled as suicide by alcohol poisoning. His net worth at the time of his death was estimated at around $3 million, a modest amount compared to the fame he once held. John Hurt as Garrick Ollivander. John Vincent Hurt was born on January 22, 1940, in Chesterfield, England. He played Garrick Ollivander, the legendary wand-maker in the Harry Potter films. When he joined the franchise in 2001, he was 61 years old, and his portrayal quickly became one of the most mysterious and magical presences in the wizarding world, the first person to help Harry choose his fateful wand. But beyond the magical glow of Ollivander's shop, Hurt's real life was one of loneliness, darkness, and pain. The son of a vicar and an engineer, he grew up in the strict environment of a traditional English household. From a young age, Hurt was isolated, shy, fearful, and frequently bullied. His only solace was cinema, and he went on to study acting at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. His career began in the 1960s and quickly soared with emotionally intense roles. His performance as the disfigured man in The Elephant Man, 1980, not only earned him an Oscar nomination, but also made him a symbol of suffering, lost souls on screen. That same depth led him to roles in Alien, 1984, and V for Vendetta. With a net worth estimated near $30 million, Hurt never lived lavishly. He went through 4 marriages, none of which lasted long, except his final one to Anwen Reese Myers, who remained by his side until the end. Those who knew him described him as a creative genius, but also a lonely soul and a chain smoker without pause. His smoking, up to 60 cigarettes a day, led to pancreatic cancer, diagnosed in 2015. Though he declared remission in 2016, just a year later, he passed away on January 25, 2017, at the age of 77. His death came just days after his final birthday, shaking the entire British film industry. Robert Hardy as Cornelius Fudge. Robert Hardy, full name Timothy Sidney. Robert Hardy was born on October 29, 1925, in Cheltenham, England. In 2002, when he was 77 years old, he took on the role of Cornelius Fudge, the controversial minister for magic in the Harry Potter films. With his evasive eyes, anxious expressions, and politically motivated decisions, Hardy's Fudge left a mark as a man haunted by power and terrified of the truth. Off-screen, Hardy's life was a long journey filled with complexities. No scandal, no noise, but shadowed by loneliness, a love for history, and persistent self-doubt. Born into an aristocratic academic family, he was once a student of both C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien at Oxford. However, he described his academic record as terrible because he spent more time imagining than studying. He married twice and had 3 children, among them Justine Hardy, a journalist and humanitarian working in Kashmir. Yet both of his marriages ended, and he spent much of his later life alone in a house filled with history books, archery equipment, and unfinished scripts. This life also left him with a net worth estimated at around $10 million. In February 2013, Hardy broke a rib while rehearsing to play Winston Churchill on stage, a role he had portrayed over 4 times. The injury ended his stage career. That was the last time audiences saw him under the spotlight. Robert Hardy died on August 3, 2017, at the age of 91, at Denville Hall, a retirement home for elderly actors. Roger Lloyd Pac as Barty Crouch Sr. Roger Lloyd Pac was born on February 8, 1944, in Islington, London. He made a powerful impression worldwide as Barty Crouch Sr. in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. When he joined the film in 2005, he was 60 years old, delivering a gripping performance as a ministry official so strict he imprisoned his own son. But behind the screen's authority lay a real life full of quiet pain. Roger grew up with an actor father and a Jewish Austrian refugee mother, immersed in both art and the trauma of war. He once said he might have become a psychiatrist or musician if not an actor, as if from early on he understood the inner struggles of the human mind. He was best known in Britain as Trigger in the long-running sitcom Only Fools and Horses for over 2 decades, but few knew that behind the laughs was a deeply introspective man, rarely seen in the media and constantly wrestling with self-doubt. His personal life was no easier. He divorced his first wife in 1972 and found stability only after marrying writer Jehane Markham. They had 4 children, including actress Emily Lloyd. Even in his final years, Roger continued to work on stage and TV, appearing in Doctor Who, Law & Order UK, and Shakespeare productions. But in 2014, devastating news struck. He died on January 16th of that year, just 3 weeks before his 70th birthday, from pancreatic cancer. His funeral was held at St. Paul's Church in Covent Garden, where many of Britain's greatest artists had once stood. He was buried at Highgate East Cemetery, resting among legends like Karl Marx and George Eliot, Elizabeth Spriggs as the Fat Lady. Elizabeth Jean Spriggs was born on September 18, 1929, in Buxton, Derbyshire. In 2001, when she was 72 years old, Spriggs took on the role of the Fat Lady in the first installment of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the animated portrait guarding the entrance to Gryffindor's common room. Though her screen time was brief, her presence was unforgettable. Few knew that the woman with the enchanting mezzo-soprano voice had endured a childhood so lonely she once admitted, "I grew up without any love at all." At 21, Elizabeth entered a failed marriage. In what she called the most painful decision of my life, Spriggs left both her husband and young daughter to chase her dream of acting. That choice marked the beginning of a glorious career, but it also left an unhealed wound in a mother's heart. She worked with the Royal Shakespeare Company for 14 years, performing alongside legends like David Warner and Paul Scofield, and won the Olivier Award in 1978, a well-deserved honor for a devoted stage artist. At 66, Spriggs gained widespread recognition for her role as Mrs. Jennings in Sense and Sensibility, 1995, earning a BAFTA nomination for Best Supporting Actress. That same year, her net worth was estimated at nearly £1 million, not a fortune, but a reflection of an authentic, gimmick-free, artistic life. Still, fame couldn't mask her internal solitude. Her first two marriages ended in divorce. Not until 1977, when she was 48 years old, did she find lasting companionship with her third husband, a taxi driver and musician who had fallen in love with her the first time he saw her perform. In her final years, Spriggs's health declined following a series of strokes. On July 2, 2008, she passed away in Oxfordshire at the age of 78. Her funeral was held at the Church of St. Mary the Virgin, attended by familiar faces like Jeremy Irons, Robert Hardy, and Sinead Cusack, all paying their respects to a performer who left a lasting imprint on both artists and audiences alike. Paul Grant as Goblin. Paul Grant was born on February 3, 1967, and became part of the world's biggest film franchise when he played a goblin in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone in 2001, when he was 39 years old. Though his appearance was brief, he was an essential piece of the magical world. Behind the camera lights was a life full of cracks. Grant openly admitted his struggles with alcohol and drug addiction, destructive habits that haunted him for decades. In a shocking interview, he confessed, "I lost everything, my career, my family, my dignity, because of it. I used to be a hero in my kids' eyes, now I'm just a wandering addict." After a long absence, he returned briefly to the screen in Harry Potter, but the comeback was fleeting. Financial issues and mental health struggles dragged him further down. Paul was frequently seen sleeping on the streets, asking for change, and depending on the kindness of strangers, a heartbreaking image in stark contrast to his past life in Star Wars. On March 16, 2023, he suddenly collapsed outside St. Pancras Station in London. 4 days later, he was pronounced dead at the age of 56. While the official cause of death was not publicly released, family confirmed he was declared brain dead shortly after the fall, ending a life worn thin by addiction and loneliness. Dave Legeno as Fenrir Greyback. Dave Legeno was born on October 12, 1963, in Marylebone, London. When he was 45 years old, he left a fierce impression on global audiences as the savage werewolf Fenrir Greyback in the Harry Potter series, starting with Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, 2009, and continuing through both Deathly Hallows films. With his muscular build and wild eyes, Dave Legeno needed no CGI to make Fenrir terrifying. Before Hollywood, he was a professional MMA fighter and skilled in multiple martial arts, including judo, boxing, Muay Thai, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In fight circles, he was known as the Lone Wolf. That same spirit of independence would lead him to a tragic fate. In July 2014, he went hiking alone in California's Death Valley, one of the hottest places on Earth. There, he collapsed from heat stroke. His body was discovered 3 to 4 days later by 2 hikers. Dave Legeno died at the age of 50, leaving behind a daughter and a void in the hearts of friends and colleagues. On what would have been his 51st birthday, a special memorial was held at Camden Underworld in London. His final film, Last Nights, was dedicated to his memory. Paul Ritter as Eldred Worple. Paul Ritter was born on December 20, 1966, in Gravesend, Kent, England. In 2009, when he was 42 years old, he appeared in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince as Eldred Worple. A minor character, a wizard writer known for exploiting other people's stories. With his sharp gaze and nuanced performance, Ritter still left an impression on fans of the wizarding world. Ritter's career shone brightly on both stage and screen. He was nominated for an Olivier Award for his performance in Coram Boy and received a Tony Award nomination in 2009 for The Norman Conquests. From films like Quantum of Solace, Son of Rambo, The Eagle, to his chilling performance as Anatoly Dyatlov in Chernobyl, he constantly reinvented himself. His role as Martin Goodman in the beloved comedy series Friday Night Dinner, 2011 to 2020, made him a household name in the UK. His net worth was estimated at around $5 million, a well-earned figure for a career that spanned decades. But what no audience could foresee, behind those vibrant characters, Ritter was quietly battling a devastating illness, a brain tumor. He fought in silence. On April 5, 2021, Paul Ritter passed away at his home in the arms of his wife, Polly Radcliffe, and their 2 sons. He died at the age of 54, leaving behind a profound sense of loss for colleagues and fans alike. Terrence Baylor as the Bloody Baron. Terrence Baylor was born on January 24, 1930 in Wanganui, New Zealand. In 2001, when he was 67 years old, he portrayed the Bloody Baron, the ghost of Slytherin House, in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. His appearance offered a subtle slice of theatrical history interwoven with the cinematic wizarding world. His career began early, with the lead role in the New Zealand film Broken Barrier, 1952, in which he played a young journalist who falls in love with a Maori woman amidst social division. The role made him a pioneering figure in early New Zealand cinema. Baylor later moved to England and devoted nearly 6 decades to the arts. He collaborated with legends like Eric Idle and Terry Gilliam, leaving a deep mark in classics like Monty Python's Life of Brian, 1979, Time Bandits, 1981, and Brazil, 1985. Though never a box office headliner, he was always the perfect supporting player, an actor directors deeply trusted. He passed away on August 2, 2016, at the age of 86. There were no grand ceremonies, no tearful Hollywood tributes. But for those who admired him, Baylor's passing felt like the graceful exit of a courtly ghost leaving the halls of Hogwarts. The stars of Harry Potter have left behind an everlasting legacy, living on forever in the hearts of fans. Which character do you love most in this magical world? Share your memories and let's continue spreading the love for Hogwarts.